Well, you did a prediction post on Facebook where you said 10,000 Dow, 10,000 Bitcoin,
Gold.
10,000 gold.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
10,
Yeah, gold
10,
was
10.
the second one.
Right.
And when I read that, I thought, he's right. But there's a chance of that. But I still think there must be people should definitely be prepared. General Clausewitz, I say this a lot on my Facebook page. People are probably sick of it. But General von Clausewitz was this Prussian general, and he wrote the book called On War, I think. And his first rule of warfare was make your base secure. And anything you can do to make your base secure, food, toilet paper, whatever, I think those are the things people should be doing. And in a way, the pandemic gets you into that head. So that's kind of good. Am I a boomer who poops unicorns or what? That was
well, I actually worked in Unicorn Valley, Silicon Valley, which is, they should just rename it Unicorn Valley, because the majority of the companies, over 500 of them, are unicorn companies, meaning they haven't made a profit in over 10 years, right? They get all of their capital financing by venture capital in New York City that injects a lot of money every quarter, or with the hope that ultimately these companies will become profitable, and then they can go and convert it in. They can be sold. They could be sold. What do they call it? When you go public with the company. So these companies will eventually go public, and those initial venture capitalists will be able to make tremendous money through pushing it, making that company, converting it into a public stock, publicly traded stock. Right. So that's exactly, they're looking for just one. They're willing to do 500 companies. Just one of that 500 companies successful as Facebook, it was worth it for all of them.
Right. Well, that's how they figure it. And they lose money on most of them, but the one that they make money on makes up for it.
Right. So I happen to know a lot of these people, and they live in their own little Silicon Valley, ultra radical liberal world. Right. And I'm not trying to, diss all their politics. There are some merits to a lot of what they say in terms of especially in terms of healthcare and such. However, that being said, they are completely disconnected. Most of them, if they were in New York City and had to really earn a buck based on merit and hard work, they would not survive a month.
I know. Yeah. Well, what you're saying is true, but how does the average person survive this time with the X event coming and all this other stuff? What's the best thing they can do, in your opinion? I'm not saying you can save the world, but you have a really good handle on this, and you've had it for so long. I think that's why people are watching this talk.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think maybe we could do a follow-up on this where I could be better prepared. But I'll just say quickly here, folks, if you have money in the bank or their money markets, now, this is what I would do. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not as good as your financial advisor who never saw it coming and is still telling you it's all going to work out, even though we never saw it coming. It's totally our opinion,
and it's for entertainment purposes only, which I'll have on my gravestone.
Right.
Everything I've ever written has to have, it's for entertainment purposes.
That's right.
And the weirdest thing is all my books are always shelved in the nonfiction because it's considered nonfiction. I don't think it's fiction, but a lot of people do. But no, I think
especially your next book coming out.
Yes, yeah. It's true.
We'll bring him in shortly, right? Is he around?
I picked him up before because he was so offended by the astrologers not believing in Mars, Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn. I mean, he's a pretty decent astrologer.
My rabbits were the same way.
Yeah, exactly. But that's just what you're. Oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. Animals know, and what you're talking about is survival instinct level stuff. And you were about to say if you had money in the bank, but of course it's for entertainment purposes only. How can you help us?
I think the most important thing now is you got to create liquidity for yourself, because as soon as the kaboom event occurs, and look, the Fed just is set to unleash an unprecedented dollar destruction. They're going to inject an additional $625 billion of freshly printed, actually I should say freshly digitized fiat into the system again after they already injected $800 billion and
Right.
then injected another 1.5 trillion the week before. And all of that, every time they do it, the market keeps dumping.
Right, because people are trying to get out before all that injection of liquidity ends up being
Dries up.
inflationary. Because right now, first of all, it's just like when you go to the place, it's all this fake dollars chasing goods that don't exist because of the slowdown in the economy, because everybody's home and only
There's
essential.
no demand. There's no demand, right? So
Right.
what's happening is they're diluting, they're destroying the currency. There's currency destruction. So here's the thing. You got to get liquidity. You got to convert, get that cash out as much as you can. You probably won't be able to get it all out. And you don't want to get it all out because you're going to need some, because you have automatic deductions from your checking account and, you know, right? But I would say if you have substantial cash reserves in money markets and bank accounts, etc., you definitely want to preserve your wealth by putting them into gold, silver, even getting a Bitcoin position. Folks, Bitcoin's been going up and it's been functioning very well now.
Yes, everything started going up last night, as a matter of fact, including silver, gold, and Bitcoin.
Right. So these are the only things that are going to hold their value, and that you can, when you need to liquidate some of that, you can easily get cash. Here's the problem with the cash. It doesn't matter if the stocks rebound a bit before the implosion. It's possible they can inflate them to a certain point. But here's the problem. The purchasing power of the dollar, and if you have the Canadian dollar, it's worse. And if you're a Turkish dollar, forget it. They're all compared to the US dollar. The purchasing power of the dollar keeps cliff diving every day as they print more money and inject it to save the system. So it doesn't matter. Oh, my stocks went up. Yeah, but the purchasing power, if you cash out on the stock, is worth dramatically less than it was just 5 weeks ago. And this is called the hidden inflation, while deflation is kicking in. While everything is falling apart and deflating, we're seeing hidden inflation occurring because our purchasing power is becoming less and less and less.
Good, well said. I think people are starting to get, so even, because I think at a certain point, if they do a reset, a financial reset, gold and silver have held their value for 4,000 years. And
even palladium, platinum, folks.
Sure, for sure.
You can,
that's expensive stuff, though.
But no. You don't have to buy. Like, what you can do is you don't have to buy. You could go to onegold.com. It's digitized gold, where the digitized gold is connected to actual physical gold, and you can actually collect the gold, collect the silver, collect the palladium, and you don't have to buy a whole ounce. You could just say, I'm going to put $10 a week in, or $100 a month in. Yeah, you could just dollar cost average. That's what I do. Onegold.com.
Wow, what a great, thank you. We see this is news you can use.
Right. And so that's what I do. I'm just telling you what I do. I just have it stripped across gold, silver, and palladium right now. All right. In different ratios. And I just say, okay, taking that money and having it every week go in. I could redeem it in cash if I want, or I could say, no. Send me the gold. Send me the silver. You can do either one. Yes. And here's the thing. I have every week going into Bitcoin. Bing, which I could redeem anytime. Give me the Bitcoin, which I have. It's my Bitcoin.
From the
Give
same
me the
website.
cash.
From the same website?
No, different website. The one I use is Coinbase.com.
Oh, sure. That's the famous one. Yeah.
Right. So I just use both. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm putting my money there. I'm no longer contributing to my Roth IRA anymore. I haven't done that since I haven't done that since 2017. Right. Because I knew what was coming.
Believe me, I know you've known it. I've been so impressed with your accuracy level. And plus the underlying intelligence of your argument and understanding of the situation, at least in my humble boomer opinion, ever since I first read you, I knew you knew what you were talking about, because people have been predicting the end of the markets since the 70s. And I've always been, like Bradford, all these different publishers and I've never really connected with it until I read your work, because it was astrology and intelligently based. Right. Because if you look at Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and you don't think that's going to have an effect, you should not be reading astrology charts for any human being that's alive.
Absolutely. I mean, astrologists need to be held accountable, folks, and
Yes,
you need to hold them to account.
they're
You need to
criminals.
hold them because you're the ones going to their conferences, buying their books, praising them, never calling them out when they're wrong. Listen, everyone should have called out the Hillary Clinton astrologers. Hillary Clinton wins by a landslide. These are the same ones saying it's a hoax play. You know, this is just the con game. This is a Trump intelligence operation. These are the same ones, folks, and yet you continue to support them. You continue to just not question them anymore. It's unbelievable.
It literally is unbelievable to me, knowing astrology the way I do. I have Mercury in Capricorn, so I understand. I mean, it makes for a very nice sense of humor, which is great. But I understand the Capricorn mentality. But also, when Pluto Saturn is the death grip. It says, you know what? I've been asking you to transform for a while. Now you're going to do it, because if you don't, you're dead.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's a do or die moment. At the very least, as an astrologer should know Pluto Saturn is do or die.
Right.
You have to.
I mean, I look at it as signal this conjunction. Well, there's a lot of things I've said about it.
Sure.
I did 2 4-hour webinars on it just recently, right? But essentially, it's where life forces challenge the collective that require the necessity of choice of some kind before one feels ready. It's sort of a period that implies the need of looking carefully at the implications right now of one's life choices rather than being driven blindly out of urgency.
And at a time like this, that's very difficult.
Right. I mean, it's okay if the chat is seen by the this is sort of like a very loose thing. I'm not doing a formalized webinar where no, only send message to you and not to the group. This is just a very low. I'm trying to do a very informal thing. It's my birthday, and that's the way we're going to do it.
Hey, listen, you're the Aries. I've been listening to an Aries since 1974.
I know she's she has been directing you right on the mark, right?
Well, one thing about being an Aquarius, you want the truth, and Aries are not shy about telling you what's the truth.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But we're not always popular because of that. But
that's just it. If you want to be a tough guy, you got to be able to take the truth. If you want to be a successful person and have the edge that you were talking about before, you have. When someone comes to you and says, "Guess what? What you think is right is wrong." If you don't listen to them, it's your fault. It's not their fault. You got to be able to recognize the truth when you hear it.
Absolutely, and that's the same thing with astrology, right? There's certain things that are going to resonate. I say anything that we're talking about today, folks, that if you're still sitting on the fence, so to speak, anything that intuitively resonates with you, that is the signal to take action, because you're going to be confronted. All of us are going to be confronted during this period with unexpected developments, setbacks, losses, terminations. I believe this period is a period where fate and destiny are going to play a much bigger role than maybe any other period in our life. Yeah. I believe this alignment is definitely where we need to come to recognize an end, or recognize the necessity to leave behind one's previous life or life values or lifestyle and prepare for an unknown future.
Yes, and yes, and definitely respecting the unknown. That's a big one on this one. So prepare as best as you can.
Prepare and get informed and start operating from an intuitive place. And one of the things I'm recommending to people, this thing you can do, which you refuse to do because you're lazy, you have excuses, you used to do it, but now you don't, is just meditate 10, 15 minutes a day.
Sure.
And if you need to use the technology such as YouTube, they have wonderful meditation programs. They have Headspace. They have a lot of apps out there. Do that, because that will get you intuitive engines up and running. Because when you get intuitive, you're operating with the collective. You're operating with the archetypal forces that are articulating, forming, and informing the humanity. They're forming and informing civilization, humanity, at the collective level, at the local level, and at the personal level, because there's going to be drastic changes in directions as the pace of outer events and dramatic developments that follow will accelerate and intensify to the point where we may feel caught up in a cyclone with no sense of where we may end up landing. And that's why you need to start meditating, because you will get guidance. Yeah. You will get guidance.
And also that's that spiritual elevation that Steiner was talking about. And of course, drink good water. And about, I think over 10 years ago, Amy and I did a project called the Chakra Meditation Kit. And I think I'm going to start posting. It came with a CD, remember those things? And we did all the different chakras, meditations for each of the chakras. I'll start posting them on my Facebook page, I guess. They're pretty okay.
Mm-hmm. I mean, anything. I mean, whatever it takes. It's just, I make sure, like when I'm doing my remote viewing work and doing astrology, I have to do it twice a day because I really got to calm my mind down.
Sure.
And I'll tell you something. I'm putting a remote viewing team together, which I'm going to lead. We're going to do some practice sessions, a couple practice, because we got to move quickly. And what I'm going to do it for is to get better idea of what's coming next, because we're leading to an X event. Remember, the coronavirus is just a trigger. It's the black swan trigger to the X event that is coming.
Well, so when you're talking about the X event, it's probably, I mean, logic dictates it's probably something connected with the derivatives market.
Right. I'm not going to go into some people are asking me crypto questions. We're not going to make this a crypto. This is really a discussion between Monte and I. And I mean, if Monte has some questions on crypto, I'm going to answer. But there are people saying, hey, William, what's the difference between the blockchain and the hash rate? And I'm not going to go into that. I can't answer, but that's beyond the scope of what we're talking about, folks.
Last year, there was a big meeting of the crypto people out here in the Hamptons, and I read for a lot of them. So I learned a lot. And I mean, I read for some of them that are doing very well. I read for one of them that the FBI took away in handcuffs. It's just like life in general. But anything people are willing to buy, that's how the stock market starts. You have businesses trying to raise money, and then someone down outside of their window has bought some shares in the company, and then they're willing to sell it. Anything someone's willing to buy has value, and crypto, if someone's willing to buy it, has value. It's been going on. It's not like it started yesterday. It's been going on for a while.
Look, what people don't understand, especially, and I have to say this, it's about the baby boomers, and I'm not putting you in that category, but they say, William, I totally get what you're saying about gold, silver. I follow that, but crypto, you've totally lost me. There's nothing to this. They don't know the fact that crypto has outperformed gold, silver, the stock market combined. Since 2009, it's outperformed all of them. So if you would have took all your money from your 401k, your Roth IRA, whatever you hold, right, and you put it into crypto. Right. If you put it into crypto, you would be a multi-millionaire or possibly billionaire.
Well, sure, because it was really well. A few years ago, the Marshal Service sold 50,000 Bitcoin for $200 each because they had seized it in a I forget what the case was. They sold it in units of 20,000 and 30,000 for 200 each. So that's what it was valued at that point. And now we're talking about what, $6,800 today or something like that?
That's right. And here's the thing. It just, every year it keeps outperforming every other asset, and it's worth more than gold. And it is traded worldwide on a decentralized network. So I'm not going to push it much more. Folks, the baby boomers out there, you need to get a crypto presence, because when this reset and the dust settles on this reset, we're not going back to paper fiat money. It's all over with. This is the beginning. Look, how many people in 1914 was still Smiths? What were the people that made, the horse industry? I don't know what the proper term, right? There was, the buggies and the horses and the Smiths that actually, made all of the farriers, right? That industry was bigger in 1914 than the car industry was. That's a fact. That's a fact. by so that's 1914, right? So by 1925, let's say, to 1926, when the Roaring '20s was going full throttle, you had 50% of Americans driving cars. By 1930, 80%. By 1940, it was nearly 100%. So it happened really fast. And that's where we're at when you look at where fiat is, the legacy fiat system with crypto. Forget about the word Bitcoin. We're talking about the technology, the back-end technology that makes Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies, along with these other decentralized other platforms on which these cryptocurrencies run on, such as DeFi, all possible. The future is here. We're moving rapidly to it. You need to get on board if you want to save your wealth and you want to have a viable financial future. Because look, with these major out-of-planetary alignments, right, that coincide historically right now with psychospiritual death, rebirths, like these come to Jesus moments, there's just no way this fiat fractional reserve banking system is going to continue.
It sure looks that way. I mean, that's what the smart money is betting on now, I would assume.
I mean, I think you know what happened in 1284-85, right? I think we discussed that yesterday when we had that triple alignment and we saw all of the banking systems in Europe and in China begin to collapse, right? And then what they decided to do after that collapse was to go to paper money.
Right.
Yeah. So we talked about that. That happened then, folks. So we went from a coin base, so let's say precious metals based money, to a paper money. And the banking system we know today all started in the late 1200s during the crisis of the 13th century. And now we're going to have that transition again away from the paper fiat model to this new decentralized model.
Yeah, because people won't trust something that's bitten them on the butt.
That's true.
I mean, human nature really is a clue to what's going on and what's going to happen.
So look, this is like where we're at is like, think of the blacksmiths. The blacksmiths were the one that were driving a majority of the transportation economy. At the time, Henry Ford perfected the Model T, which is the basic fundamental engine, transmission, steering mechanism for every modern car, including Tesla today.
Right. And he perfected the assembly line, which had been invented, I think, by Daimler.
Correct. And he perfected it, and he created a global industry out of it at the time when the blacksmiths were running the show, and the naysaying astrologers wrote nothing on it. I looked it up. So what astrology is 1914? Yeah, I looked it up. I that's what I do. So I try and find out. There had to be a great astrologer out there nobody knows about because he was a speaker at such and such conference, right? So he was right all the time. So we won't let him. He'll make us. Was there anybody? And there wasn't. There wasn't, unfortunately.
Wow. Well, you're going to be the astrologer from this time. You and Theodore.
Well, Theodore is definitely. He's definitely being on the mark, and he's got a tremendous amount of talent. And I know he's very controversial and provocative. I understand it. Okay. But like I tell everyone, try and look that aside. He calls it like he sees it. And there's a couple other left-wing astrologers out there. Kat Ironwood of Lucky Mojo. She's a very accomplished astrologer, and she's been calling it for a long time. Yes, she has. So if you're a left wing, right wing, I don't really care. As long as you can articulate to me what you're seeing, call it like you see it, and I can understand where you're coming from, right? And there are left wing astrologers. Now, of course, I disagree with their political solutions, right? I don't believe Bernie Sanders is the solution for the crisis, just as much as they don't believe that Donald Trump is the solution for this crisis. And
I don't mind if they don't like anybody. It's just that they hate people, and they're not willing to say that that Sanders or Biden or anyone is capable of doing anything right, even twice a day, like a stop clock. And they say that about Trump, and it is. I don't. And these are people who are trying to lead the Facebook meme life. You know, love everybody, kiss everybody, kittens. And then when it comes to this particular political figure, and it could be any one of them, they hate him.
Right.
And anyone who supports them, they hate those people too. That's nuts.
Total nuts. You know, there are other astrologists too. I mean, somebody mentioned, Nick, that WD Gann system of astrologists have been nailing it. Now, that being said, they probably have been nailing it. But when I met one of the top WD Gann astrologists from Australia, and I talked with her in 2018 at UAC, and I said, so are you seeing the big event? And she's like, well, I don't know if I would call it that. I mean, definitely the markets are overvalued and we're going to have a big correction, but I wouldn't call it a collapse. So that got me, yeah, the WD Gann system.
The Gann wave. Yeah, sure.
Yes, the Gann wave. So that doesn't mean, you know, she didn't shift her gears, but I was talking in 2018, and I'm not saying I'm better than the Gann people. I'm using the financial astrology software that I was trained by Alfie Lavoie and Bill Meridian, who actually manages a multi-billion-dollar account in Abu Dhabi, right?
Wow.
All right. So that was where my training comes from. And I was seeing, and by the way, Alfie was not in agreement. Bill and I were not in agreement. He was like, William, don't do this. Don't say this. Hold back. You got to realize, you know, you were wrong about Romney. You're going to be wrong about this. And I said, no. I was right about Trump when both of you picked Hillary. Okay. All right. And I said, I am more confident this is going to happen than I was confident back in July when I published and went on Coast to Coast about the major political revolt, voter revolt that was going to happen. So at any rate, the point is that there are a lot of good Gann astrologers out there. They have been seeing it, but I've been going back as 2018 saying this is not just about the money, folks. This is about a paradigm shift, a drastic change in direction where the pace of outer events and dramatic developments will seem to accelerate and intensify to the point where, again, the ability to predict where things are going to be almost impossible until the dust settles.
Well, that's the thing that scares a lot of people, and and you know, how do you prepare for something like that? But it's just start where you are. There's a lot of good prepper websites, and do what you can so that you're as secure as you can be.
Well, you know, I also think this is a breakout moment too. I think it's a combination of things going on here. I think you have that side of it, and then also, you know, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And that's also, I would apply that to a breakout moment where creative efforts are galvanized and recognized and rewarded during this time, right? Because, you know, especially in a time of struggle, where one must struggle, the dragon of day-to-day material reality that is facing us down, right? And
that's
so
Yeah.
So I think thinking outside of the box, you're going to be forced, all of us are going to be forced to think outside of the box and innovate and to be creative. And you're going to see that expressed in the forthcoming months over the next couple of years while this long emergency is in place.
Well, I feel good because we just our creativity kit is just coming out, though it didn't make it into the Amazon warehouse.
Not yet.
Before they cut it off, they're just waiting to fill it with toilet paper, probably.
Right.
So, we should have printed the Creativity Oracle on toilet paper. It probably would have done incredibly well.
Right. So I really think the best of us is yet to come. This is all turned out for the best when the dust settles. Nobody could have seen back in 1939 when World War II started that the world would end up being a better world. Right? We didn't really have a middle class until after the Second World War.
That is incredible. That's the message. I think that's the lead. That's the lead of the story, because a lot of people, when they hear the truth about the reset and the kaboom, that they don't realize that what you're talking about, because that's the it almost seems too good to be true. But I agree with you 100%.
Right. And so someone said, William, you're so confident the USA will not be open for business. You know why I'm confident, Nick? because I've been doing this long enough. And I'm going to tell you, Trump, what's he going to open up his? There's no way. Okay, let's make a prediction here. There's no way he's lifting all of the restrictions and going back to business as usual. And the moment we start seeing, we're going to see more of a spike, especially New Jersey and in some other key states I've already talked about in my Patreon. Right? And people are like, well, William, you might be wrong. No, I was right about the other states. I was right about the timing. So wait a minute. If I've been right and I've been using the same techniques, there's no way. And we're in the zone of the eclipse. See, the fact that you say that, Nick, and anyone else out there is because you don't understand what's happening in terms of how these eclipses work during massive, gigantic out-of-planetary alignments. So yeah, I'm putting my money down. I'm going to put my money down that we don't go back to business as usual.
And I'm not certain, but I think maybe he won't lift the restrictions everywhere, like he won't lift them in New York, but he might lift them in different places.
In Tennessee?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Who cares?
I'm not saying it's going to work, and I'm not saying it's smart.
No, I'm not arguing with you. I'm actually just saying, yeah, he's going to lift the restriction. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's insane. In fact, I'll tell you something. It could be the end of his presidency if he does it, right?
It might be. Yeah, definitely. Well, I think he's looking at that now for sure. He must be looking at what's going on now as definitely a game changer, if not the game ender.
Correct.
So we'll see, right?
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing too is, what do you psychically? Because you're an excellent clairvoyant and psychic, and you do putting astrology aside for the moment.
Okay.
What are you intuiting either about this crisis or where things are leaning, etc.? What do you feel in terms of what the ambient is telling you?
But what do you want to know? I will say that I have predicted what he's going to do a few times already.
Mm-hmm. So you think he will lift it? I mean, it's fine if
I mean, it's not me. It's don't shoot the messenger.
I'm not.
But I heard he was gonna start doing what he did today, and he did it today, talking about Easter resurrection. I think he's gonna try it. I do. I'm not saying it's gonna work, but I hear yes when you ask. I work with questions, so I got to hear a question. But I don't know, because he's talking about a rock in a hard place.
Right. Well, it's just funny. Like if the gold is soaring, just remember, folks, when the gold is soaring, that means that there's lack of confidence in government. So if gold goes up, means that we're not happy with the government. If gold is soaring, they are basically shouting, what is it when you dismiss or discredit something? Like you're basically saying, you're lying to us. That's not going to happen.
So you're saying gold is soaring now? I haven't seen the prices today.
Yeah, the gold is soaring right now. It's just really taking off.
Well, people are starting. In other words, they want hard assets. They don't trust the fiat currency.
Correct. And so when gold soars, that means that the market is calling out the facade of government. Whatever proclamations, whatever policies were implemented, the gold market, when it goes up, means there's no longer confidence in government.
Wow. This has been amazing. What a great conversation we've had.
Yeah. So we should, we've been here going at it for a while. We should finish it up in a bit here, but I just wanted to get what you were saying. So you do think he's going to do some lifting of the restrictions? And if he does, how do you think that's going to fare out?
I think it'll work in some places, not everywhere. But what do you mean? If you could ask a specific question about
well, like if he does lift some restrictions, will there be blowback? Will he have to go back? Right? Will he?
I don't think he'll go back. I mean, and this could be someone who knows his personality as well. But for all I know, this is part of the handing of the reins over to the next generation from the boomer generation, because he seems to be betting on the young people to be healthy and to want to come back to work enough to take the risk, even though a lot of young people are getting sick too,
Right.
at least in New York.
At least in New York. I mean, this bioweapon virus is morphing and changing faster than they can handle or deal with it.
Right. Well, viruses mutate. That's what they do.
Yeah, especially this one, right? It's very intelligent. And it seems to, like, that's why they can't come up with an inoculation so fast, because
right.
It keeps changing. But, you know, I think what we're seeing here and the pressure Trump is under is that this virus is exposing the truth about the economy, about the markets.
Yes.
Right. It's showing how, right, this is going to be the true geopolitical game changer when the dust settles, and the chances of a greater depression are increasing by the hour, not even by the day.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's a great G.K. Chesterton novel, and the basic meaning of it was, where do you hide a leaf? And the answer was, in the forest. So if people knew that the economic system had to be changed, right now, there's so much change and there's so much powerful forces at work. You could either blame or hide or whatever, all the economic structural changes that they might have wanted to make underneath this pandemic that's going on, with the economy being shut down. I mean, I don't even really know what I'm even saying, but you know, I'm trying to hook up to my intuition now.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess right now all the different warring conspiracies are making their moves,
right,
to shelter and protect their own interests, because I'm sure they see the X event coming as well. So when you have all these warring conspiracies who don't want to be destroyed, doing what they think they need to do to stay afloat, it does make for a very uncertain time. But in terms of what he's going to do, I think he's going to pull the trigger on reducing the isolation.
Okay. That makes sense. That's interesting. You know,
I don't know. I could be wrong. You know.
Well, you know, yeah. I mean, it's you know, the thing is that this
I wish
thing
him
is
well.
Right. I mean, the thing is that this just show you this. This is show you the screen here. This thing is accelerating dramatically, right? When we look at confirmed cases.
Oh wow.
Right, versus recovered cases versus confirmed deaths, which we're looking still at. He's talking about 3%, right, out of confirmed cases, somewhere about 4%.
But he's got people telling him, I'm sure, that once testing gets huge, that the actual number of confirmed deaths is going to actually be a smaller percentage once the number of confirmed cases is confirmed by broad home-based testing or whatever.
Right. Well,
I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying that's what he's got all kinds of people whispering in his ear, I'm sure, with all kinds of different things. And
right.
There's people telling him that, you know, 90% of the people or more, 99% of the people in Italy had 1, 2, or 3 underlying conditions. You know, there's a lot of different ways that people are framing it.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, but then you had people who are 20 years old and healthy and going. So it's a hard, I would hate to be in his shoes. That's all I could say. Right.
And by the way, just for those of you who have doubts about gold, if you measure, you're always looking at the US dollar versus where the S&P 500 or the Dow is. If you use gold right now, the Dow is down over 50% right now. Yeah. And if you use Bitcoin, it's down over 75%.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, this is the big problem. A lot of these, well, it's not, you know, they have these little technical things, right? Oh, gold's not 1700 yet. It's not breaking out. No, it is breaking out. It's the movements it's making in defiance to what's happening with the larger markets.
Right. The fact that it's not sinking.
Right. And the gold market is, mm-hmm. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it started to sink when this all started, but now it's definitely going back to where it was. So right. that in itself is a rise.
Right. So here's the thing, folks. Even if you're not into gold, you don't want to hold it. It's just saying the fact that the price of physical gold has decoupled from paper gold. right? That is a given. That is solid, right? That is a sign that investors, the smart money, no longer trust what the policymakers, what the markets are saying, the talking heads, the all-knowing skeptical astrologers. They're no longer buying into any of this. They are betting against what we are being told by the establishment media, the establishment government, etc.
Right. I still, I guess I'll go to my grave not understanding how an astrologer could look at that mashup of Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto and not agree with what you're saying. I just don't know. I don't know how any astrologer could say that.
They are becoming irrelevant, Monty. They're becoming
right.
irrelevant.
I mean, that is like you're talking to a machine. To me, only a machine cannot interpret that as significant.
It's not even an astrological failure. It's a moral failure. A moral failure.
It is. I'm not the greatest astrologer in the world, but I know I know astrology well enough to have been talking about. I'm not like you for 8 years or a couple of years, and like 8 years like Theodore and all that stuff. But I have known this is coming for months, and I've been trying to get people in my sort of gentle way, because we did the Enchanted Astrology. Our brand is the Enchanted World. I keep telling them about make your base secure. Put your mask on first before you put the mask on of the person next to you.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, to not warn people about an aspect like this is criminal.
It's a moral failure. Like I've gone, it's absolutely, it's unethical. It's immoral. It's criminal, right? Yeah. To marginalize it the way they're doing it on social media.
I'm glad I don't know anything about it. I really am, because it would really annoy me.
Yeah. So, that's the thing. Look, we can only speak. We don't have any authority or power to change policies, but we can at least articulate to the masses that this is an emergency. This is more than just a coronavirus depression.
Which is enough.
Which is enough. But the question is, what will the world look like when it's all said and done between now and 2022, when the Barbell Cyclic Index hits a bottom? It makes the 567-point drop complete from 2014 to 2022. What type of world?
Why preparation is the most important thing, because when you're talking about the unknown, all you could do is prepare the best you can.
Right. Real quick, before we finish up here in the next 10 minutes, I want your just your insights on this eclipse at 0 Cancer, right on the world point.
Wow. That's, as you know, Cancer is a sensitive sign. And wow, when you start thinking about Cancer and the mother and the nurturing, it's funny because in China they see the moon as masculine rather than feminine. Mm-hmm. But Cancers are so nurturing and they care. My Uranus is in Cancer, very conjunct to that actually, on the 2nd degree. That's my ruling planet and my sun. But when Cancer feel like they've given as much as they can, I've seen Cancers be super angry and super aggressive. That same mother bear instinct lashes out. So, do you want an analysis from the house position or the?
Well, I think what you're suggesting, this is going to be a heavy period where many people are going to be under stress, right? Where the flow of one's emotions, or the suppression of one's emotions, ignoring one's own needs, all type of stuff, in order to sort of deal with the lockdown or the quarantine, or dealing with the harsh economic realities of what's required to get through the situation, is going to be paramount during this period.
But I also think that they will be completely, what is the crab? The crab pulls into its shell. I think you're right. The lockdown will make people be completely family-centric or egocentric or about themselves. And look at the inconjunct to Saturn.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a major thing right there.
Right.
I try and explain inconjunct to people. I said, well, think of it as like, it's two people who hate themselves in a party. They don't talk to each other. They don't look at each other. They act like the other one doesn't exist. So you have Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn used to rule Aquarius. It can be thought of as science. It could be thought of as literally the old person. And then you have Cancer, which is completely emotional and completely, wanting to protect. That's a hard aspect.
Yeah,
Saturn,
definitely.
Saturn, the North Node.
Yeah, we're dealing with harsh practical realities of
Yeah.
what the situation requires one to deal with. And as you mentioned, reconnecting with loved ones, family, friends, reconnecting with people, right? But where one is sort of got no choice but to do such a thing, right?
And also with Cancer, it's the your home, the motherland, the fatherland, whatever you want to call it. I think it's going to bring up a nationalism that hasn't been seen since the 40s. So,
absolutely.
So
I think it's interesting too, because one of the things about eclipses, as you probably know, is it also injects into the world stage, into the collective ambient, the actual alignments that are operative. So a lot of people just look at one of the things I teach my students, and I keep reminding the skeptical, all-knowing astrologers, is don't forget the alignments that are out there, that are operating, that are going to be pulled in, even if they're not making an aspect to that eclipse. If we have a Jupiter-Pluto operative at that time, that are conjunct at that
major.
time.
Those are both major.
Right. They're both major, right? So that Jupiter-Pluto would tell me something rotten is really happening with.
I agree. And I think that the Mars-Neptune, their people would be willing to lie to enforce a utopian idea, would be seen as a lie, but based on the moon. In other words, desperate times, people do desperate things.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the fact that it's in the 12th house and in Pisces would tell me that the virus is more virulent, more destructive. We may see massive shortages resulting in food, anything that would result in shortages or contamination. That would be, martial law being put into place. That's why I'm not so confident the restrictions are all going to be lifted. And I'm also seeing sneaky and cunning actions, right? Or where the government is also not being upfront about some of the more shadow developments that you're only going to hear about on my blog post or Facebook page, right? You're not going to hear much about it, but they're going to come up and be very disturbing. Domestic violence. And I'm also seeing with Mars, Neptune, people taking opioids or drugs or stuffing themselves to, basically, what do they call it? Like it's
escape, when suicide being the ultimate escape.
Right. So these are it's quite serious. But then the fact that it's on the world point, signifying so anytime you have an eclipse or a planet on the world point, it signifies a dramatic outrush of archetypal power and planetary force on the world stage. And with the new moon, with the eclipse, actually it is a moon.
Well, it's a new moon, sure.
Moon, yeah, right. It's of some dramatic and unprecedented circumstance that gets amplified, or this buildup or an amplification, a buildup of that. And, and again, as you pointed out, like a buildup of massive delusions or fantasies. This is going to be over with.
Can be, for sure.
Right. Or this is really a hoax. I'm not buying into it. I did, but now I'm not. A sense of self-righteousness, a sense of, I don't know, like you said, there's going to be an inflation of national identity.
Yes, very much so.
It's going to get bizarre. I think with this combination with the Jupiter-Pluto, it's just going to get downright bizarre. And we're going to be in, did you follow comic books back in the day?
A little bit.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Bizarro World?
That one I follow every day.
All right. Well, no, I'm saying, but they actually had Bizarro comics.
Yeah, Superman is the best thing in Superman.
That's right. So Superman lived in Moscow in the Soviet Union. America was the bad guy. It was like everything was reversed.
Yeah.
Remember that Star Trek episode where Spock has a goatee and it's the Empire, and it was a third world war, and America collapsed, or America became a fascist state, and the whole world became a fascist. And instead of the Federation, it became an empire, right? Did you ever see that? episodes?
I must have seen it because I think I've seen all of them.
Right.
Is that the start? Is that the Enterprise on your desk?
Yeah, that's the Enterprise on my desk. So this is the USS Enterprise, not the ISS Enterprise, which was
Gotcha.
when Kirk beamed into the ISS Enterprise, and everyone gave him a salute like this, right?
Uh-oh.
And he's like, "Whoa, what's going on here?"
Right. Oh my
So
God.
I believe that's the world, right? We are moving towards a place where everything is inverted, backwards, so just not right, but similar.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen right away.
Well, I think we're moving into that, where Trump would say something and maybe act on it based on your inclinations and intuitions, or at least begin to, when this is sort of like, this is bizarre word. First of all, you're telling us the lockdown, the whole world's locking down. India's locking down today. And now you say you're going to lift it by Easter? I mean, that's bizarre.
I agree. Well, think about, like you said, it's a new moon. So you have the moon coming in front of the sun and blocking the sun. The sun is purpose, ego, whatever. Moon is your emotions. So it's the emotions are preventing your purpose from getting to you, from your ego getting to you. And when you have emotions trumping the sun, and then you have Mars conjunct Neptune, I mean, there's a potential for people to act on emotional, severe emotional irrationality.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Everything is inverted, weirdly inverted or opposite. Or we have inverted expectations, inverted emotions, inverted expression of feelings. Everything just gets bizarre, and our schedules get bizarre. We don't exercise. We sit around and eat Cheetos while we're Netflix binging, and we're obsessing on the internet. Go ahead.
Did you see that funny cartoon where the woman's saying, I was going to write my screenplay or my stage play, but I decided to sit on the floor and eat chocolate until I passed out, or it started crying.
Well, you're going to start seeing real life scenarios like that, where people are calling 911 about overindulging in chocolate while they were binge watching for 48 hours on some,
Well, I'm going to have Saturn.
Series.
I'm going to have Saturn on my sun, and I'm going to have the moon. I'm going to have the eclipse on my Uranus in my 11th house.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Whoa! That's a game changer.
It's never been easy for me. So as long as Amy and I are healthy, and we've been isolating for a long time,
right?
But it's going to be an intense time, without question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people. What year were you born, by the way?
1950. So I'll have my moon is in Pisces on the 28th degree. So Mars will be close enough.
Right. Well, so here's the thing. Everyone born in the 50s, 57, 58, who have Uranus in Cancer has that entire stellium hitting it. And that's what told me, they're the ones that are going to hit the worst, because they invested the most into the 401k plans that started in 1974.
Not me.
Not you. Not you. I mean, right? But that's why I'm saying your generation, your group of the baby boomers, right? That Uranus and Cancer group. Yeah, especially with the fact the eclipse is going to be hitting it.
Oh my God! Well, and here's the thing about the bell curve.
Right.
What do they say? It's an ill wind that blows no one some good. People made money during the Depression, and people made money during the stock market collapses. The ones that shorted the market and did a whole bunch of stuff, like Amy and I are the kind of people that like to make a product and sell it. Mm-hmm. So we always thought of stock investments as gambling. And my friends would always say, well, you got to invest with money that you're not afraid to lose. And we were like, well, we don't have any money that we're not afraid to lose. Right. We're freelance and we don't have any money.
Right.
So I've never been exposed in the market, but I have a lot of friends who are actually.
Right. And you've been able to predict markets as I know, because I did a little background check on you, and I was actually more impressed when I did that. And I was already impressed with you, and I knew about you back in the day in the Long Island era, Long Island. So,
grand dame and grandpa of astrology.
But you were like really big in the. Remember they had those big psychic fairs in Long Island and New York. You were like really big. You were like big.
But the same, the fun
don't have them anymore.
This is why I understand that people's attitude towards the boomers. We used to run into the same problems. That they, as a generation, they knew what they knew, and a lot of them didn't want to hear it. you know, and Amy and I are, you know, we put our stuff out, you know, the Aquarius symbol, he dumps the water out and whoever's going to drink it, they drink it. If they don't drink it, that's their problem. It might as well just be chicken feed. You know, the Aquarian symbol could be throwing chicken feed out.
Mhm.
You want to get the truth out. A lot of people don't want to hear the truth because when they hear stuff about it's going to be rough, it's going to be tough. You know, a lot of people, oh my God, you're going to have the Cancer thing on Uranus and the Saturn. Yes, it's going to be difficult, but like I have six retrograde planets in my chart. So I think if you want to be, like you said, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. This is the time for people. These are the time that try men's souls, as they used to say.
Absolutely. So I think, you know, we just have to hope for the best and plan for the worst. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm telling my clients. I keep emphasizing that we need to meditate. We need to get recentered. We need to reshift our values and our expectations. Everyone's life is going to be affected on this, even if they're living in Antarctica. At some point, it's even going to affect the penguins. I'm telling you, folks, this is not an American, New York-y centric problem.
Well, especially since that there's a chance that maybe it's carried in the jet streams, because look, during the Spanish flu, people on remote islands got it. So it maybe it goes in the jet stream. Who knows what happens?
Right. So let's hope the government does the right thing.
Yeah.
Keeps the lockdown going, gets the numbers down, starts slowly lifting the restrictions and getting business back to normal. Let's hope that they can inflate the markets, although I have my severe doubts. Right now, Monte, I'm just 50-50. If you ask me, put a gun in my head, William, you got to bet. Will they be able to reinflate the markets before Trump's reelection? I say it's 50-50 as of today.
Okay.
I would love to say it's 51-4 and 49 against, but at this point,
I understand, and you understand the stuff so well. I mean, psychically, I hear yes, but I don't know if that's because I'm just trying to make myself feel better and tell myself a bedtime story or what. That's the problem with being psychic at a time like this. Is you have to be so dispassionate, because it is yes, it's frightening, but think of all the things we've all been through in our lives. We've gotten through a lot personally. We've gotten through a lot of rough times. So I think we'll all get through it. The ones that do what you're saying and meditate and eat well and drink good water and exercise and don't eat all the chocolate, I think that they'll get through it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think most of us will get through it. Most of us will not get the coronavirus. We will probably all know someone who has got infected, and most of those people will probably come out of it okay, but it's going to impact our lives in a much bigger and different way. And I think it's like there's no going back after this. There's no going back to Kansas after this.
No, yeah, we're not in Kansas anymore.
That's right. So I think we just have to shift our expectations. We're all in this together. We got to help each other out. We have to just, be a lot more kinder, nicer, more tolerant, more compassionate.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
It's like focus more energy on your pet. Your pet will teach you more than any world-class astrologer will. Trust me, most of them have failed you. Learn from your pet. I mean, Monte, right? Monte's written a whole book on his pet, which is probably going to be one of his big hits, next big hit.
I think it's going to be the biggest one. It's called The Way of Zen, like the way of Zen. It's the way of Zen. All the messages that I've learned from him.
Right. Or get a pet. Folks, get a pet. Get someone. Go down there and put your energy into it and spend time that you would not, because now you're not distracted by work and pursuing all your vanity pursuits anymore. Right? They're all on hold. So go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's great. I love that. I just love it. I love that you told people to get a pet, because that would be wonderful.
Yeah, and I don't mean just get a pet. Like, bring that pet into your life. Really connect with that pet. Elevate that pet. Treat that pet like a god who's going to give you divine knowledge.
Definitely. I've learned so much from my cat. It's pretty. he expects everything to go his way. So that's a good one to learn right
But
there.
often it does it? No.
Oh, for him, every time.
Well, I mean, like he says, all right, Monty, I'm going to make this happen for you so we can, like he has that ability. So
Sure, he's magical.
He's magical.
And
But all the animals, all of them are magical.
For sure.
Right?